I've had 3 negative bank accounts in the past. I also have 3 interesting stories on how I was able to quickly resolve the issues, and this video might help you if you currently have a negative or an overdraft bank account. This happened last year in June. I had just been scammed. As you can see, I withdrew $2,800 in cash, and I also gave the scammer $200 from my wallet for a total of $3,000. Anyways, I was left with $293 in my bank account. Then literally the next day at around midnight, I opened my TD banking app and it showed a balance of negative $356. So what I forgot was that a couple days ago, before I got scammed, I initiated a $650 bank transfer into a cryptocurrency app. And as you all know, a bank transfer can take multiple business days to process, so I totally forgot about that. This was the first time that's happened to me, so I remember feeling really worried. I drove around to different ATMs around my city, and it's hard to find an ATM open in the middle of the night, but I did eventually find one, so I deposited $420 into my bank account. And the next morning, it was too late. I was slapped with a $48 non-sufficient funds fee, which is essentially the same fee when a check bounces. On top of that, I was charged with a 0.25% overdraft interest for having a negative bank account. A few months later though, I read an article saying that you can waive or reduce bank fees. So I immediately called the bank and asked them to waive my non-sufficient funds fee. The first call I made didn't work out because I didn't provide a good enough reason. So I just called again later to speak with another employee. And this time it worked because I told them my full story, that I appreciate banking with TD and I will be more careful next time. So they agreed to waive half of my non-sufficient funds fee and I got back $24. This time happened in the middle of a camping trip, so I was with my friends at Golden Ears Provincial Park where there's no Wi-Fi, there's no data, and we didn't bring enough food, so we had to drive back into the city where I went to A&W and opened my banking app. It was negative $200. So I'm from Canada, and what happened was that I was working a job where I was getting paid in US dollars, and when I got the US dollar check, I deposited it. I was like, great, this money is mine now, I can spend it how I like, which was a big mistake by the way, because the next day or so, I made a $3,000 transaction into a brokerage firm called Wealthsimple Trade, where you basically trade or invest stocks. And what I didn't realize was that it can take up to 10 business days for US dollars to convert into Canadian dollars. And in my case, the US dollar check did not actually clear or show up into my Canadian bank account. So that money was not in my bank account yet, which means the $3,000 transaction won't go through. And I called my bank again, asked them what I can do. They told me like, hey, if you make your bank account positive right now, the transaction might go through with no problems. And luckily I had my friend right there who I was with camping. He e-transferred me $300 on the spot. The transaction in the next few days, it actually went through with 0 problems. So of course, when I got home, I e-transferred my friend back the $300 plus $5 as a thank you. Always pay your friends back. This third time happened recently. So I was banking with BMO and I haven't used any of their services for about a year to 2 years. So I was an inactive user to begin with. But then they started charging me monthly fees and they're charging me $10.95 per month. So this was going on for about 4 months and they finally sent me a letter, because I didn't even realize it, but they sent me a letter. It says overdraft notice at Bank of Montreal, blah blah blah. So the next week I walked into the branch and I basically went to a branch where there's no lineups. I can speak directly with a customer service and they're more higher level managers. So I just told them my story. I said, hey, like I didn't know about this, and I asked her like, do you think there's any way we could waive these fees and start off fresh again? And she was like, no, we can't really do that. This was your responsibility. We still have to shift like responsibility on the consumer. So at that point I was like, oh darn. But I was still thinking like, hey, if this doesn't work out, I can just pick up the phone and call the customer service representative there, where they have authority as well. But then we have a bit of chit chat. I ask her like how's it like working at a branch where there's no lineups. We had that bit of like small talk connection, and then afterwards, like she kind of opened up. I guess I told her like, hey, I really do like BMO, even though I don't bank with them often, and like I would appreciate the business still. So as soon as she saw that I was like a real person and sort of negotiating, she was looking it up on her computer and she said, well, see what I can do. And then she was like, okay, we are going to eliminate all your negative balance. So the 4450 plus any interest you owe will be gone and your account balance will now be at 0. So I had all my bank fees removed, and I really do thank her.